Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back to It's the Music Stupid. It's the Music Stupid number 71. A series of videos I go down into the record vault and I choose 5 vintage records. I want to make sure I pick from a good year so your taste buds are tantalized. You know, the nose, the aroma, the all the silly stuff that reviewers write about. I'm not a reviewer, okay? Let's get that straight. I'm just a fan, a music fan that likes to share the music I love. Now, it's the Music Stupid. It is about. It comes down to the music, no matter what the pressing is. First. And of course, then you want a good sounding record. By the way, this is the t-shirt in heather gray, black and heather gray. Now, I've been notified that within the next 4 weeks, the prices, because of these tariffs, these on and off tariffs, depending on when they land, when you order, they're gonna go up $1 or $2 per t-shirt in the next month. So go down in the store there, the merch store, and you can get these. I am wearing a large, heather gray in large. It's the Music Stupid. If you like one, you can get them in Europe and in America. I'm not sure about all the other countries that hate us, that hate us Americans these days. Remember that great Randy Newman song? I've just expressed my love for the Randy Newman album, Sail Away. In America, you get food to eat. Song Political Science. How people don't love us. Okay, I digress. 5 records I chose today, and a nice little variety, I would say. And I've been playing all these over the last week or so. First is from 1983, a record recorded in, I believe they're from Wisconsin, this band. That's the debut of the Violent Femmes. This originally came out on Slash Records in 1983. This came out, I believe, in April, and the following month, like literally almost exactly, give or take a few days, a month later, I saw them with my friend Jashid Brooks at the I-Beam on Haight Street. They headlined. So I keep thinking back to those days, the way it was like college radio. KUSF was the station that played it. The FM stations weren't playing this stuff, but we heard about it. KUSF, the college stations, and literally a month later, the place was sold out. It was a great show. Now, Violent Femmes have become one of those darlings of particularly a few songs from this album. They're all over teen movies and movies about culture and sex and, the typical like Porky's type of movies. Although, oh great, I don't know if you can hear that in the ambient of the noise. The neighborhood gardeners are out there leaf blowing and mowing. So if that's there, I apologize. That's where you're gonna hear. Sometimes the air filter kicks in too when that happens, even though I'm inside the house. So if you hear like strange noises, like an ASMR video, that's what it is. Not an excuse, just a fact of life, because I find a segment of the viewers here listen on headphones, so you can hear that more than the speaker people. Anyway, I love this record. This is, in a way, they coined the term freak folk out of this, that folk rock thing that mixed, the intensity of folk music. I mean, you could go back to Tim Buckley, I would think one of the early freak folk artists, because their folk music isn't the traditional, 3 chords with an A minor and E minor thrown in there. And political in nature or social in nature. There's dark topics sometimes, a sensual side to them. Obviously explicit lyrics on this album, with songs like Blister in the Sun and Kiss Off especially. But what's great about that is the guy played just a snare drum only, as I recall. I think he had a bass drum occasionally, but a snare drum with brushes, and that was it, standing there and the big double bass. Killer band here. Gordon Gano is the violin lead vocalist, guitar, that quirky, thin, nasally voice, that just worked beautifully. It worked wonderfully. You have Brian Ritchie on that acoustic bass guitar, xylophone, electric bass, and vocals. That sound he got on that bass, there's like a bunch of, fast, folky freak folk riffs that just are killer on this record. Gone Daddy Gone, another song these songs have been in commercials, been in movies, but all the power to a band. You never thought that a band like this would last as long as they have, and they've gone through some changes, personnel changes, although Gordon, I think Brian too, has been there for a while, different drummers, but I don't have their entire RV, their discography. Can't even pronounce it now. But this is like one hell of a record. Everything, every song on this. This is a perfect record from start to finish. And it's the debut, Violent Femmes, 1983. And that show was amazing. The audience went wild up on Haight Street there. Next, Tom Rush. I've showed him quite a bit. And I recently showed him, this is the third of 4 records he did for Columbia Records. This is 1972. So this is kind of like right when I got out of high school, I bought this record. I remember seeing this record. I bought it because of the cover, but I knew Tom Rush. I had several albums of his. Comes from the whole folk scene, obviously New England, and then goes to New York with all the folk artists. And he is very influential in the folk scene. And in 1962, he was one of the first artists through a friend that did like a private press record. And I don't have that record. I think it was called Tom Rush Live at the Unicorn. And I don't even know, it's probably rare as hell, the original. And I assume it's been repressed at some point over the years. But it was a live show he did and influenced one particular James Taylor. That he's kind of the beginning of the singer-songwriter thing. And he covered great songs. In 1968's album, Circle Game, which that great cover photo by Linda Eastman, soon to become Linda McCartney. He does Joni Mitchell's Circle Game before Joni did it. He did a Jackson Browne song. He did a James Taylor song before James, right at the time James was signed to Apple Records when he went to England. But he's got that deep baritone voice. And I showed his final album the other day on that video I did of the Walker Brothers. And because the Walker Brothers' final hit in 1976 was No Regrets, that would be on his next album, his final album for Columbia. So he does that indie record. He gets finally signed to Prestige, does a folk record in Prestige, does okay, again, early on, and then he gets signed and pulled by Jacques Holtzman to Elektra Records and does a series of albums for Elektra. And his records weren't ever big sellers. He's a notch up from a cult artist, but he made a career of playing live. Unfortunately, Columbia was the stuff that should have been bigger, especially his second version of No Regrets. He did No Regrets earlier on the Circle Game as an acoustic version pretty much, and then did a big production version on the album after this, Ladies Love Outlaws. And that's pretty much the version that the Walker Brothers covered and did it very, very similar. Scott Walker, of course, that low baritone voice, and he's got the low voice. So even though his songs are more positive, there's a lot of cover tracks. In fact, on here, he does a great cover of Jamaica Say You Will, a Jackson Browne song. It might even be around the time or just before Jackson Browne actually recorded his own song. And this is the version I first heard of Jamaica Say You Will. I love that song. A lot of his own songs on it, Kids These Days, so that you get a little more country folk, more produced, country rock, country folk, more, in theory, I think the record companies thought would be accessible. The whole acoustic folk sing was kind of over by this point, and all the artists, the singer-songwriters, Carole King and James Taylor's, and even the bands like America, they were more produced, even though they were acoustic based. This has obviously some more electrical things on it, but I just kind of love Tom Rush. I am a fan of all the Columbia records, obviously the Prestige record and the Elektra records, and I have them all. Come Ramblin' is like the Prestige record, I think. The very typical, I think it was photographed in Beacon Hill in Boston. The college folk scene happening. Anyway, Tom Rush. This is Merrimack County from 1972. I just love this kind of photo with the illustrative cover. This was, again, an album I hadn't heard it, but I knew Tom Rush and I picked it up because of the cover art at Tower Records in San Francisco in 1972. Next, Urubamba. I left this on. This is my original copy. I left it on with the hype sticker. I don't usually leave shrink wrap on. For some reason I did. Now, there's a lot of conversation about Paul Simon bringing world music to the masses and to a larger audience. And I am one that thinks any way a Western artist, obviously in this case an American from New York, folk singer, brought a lot of international music. Is that co-opting? Fortunately, he brought the artists as well along, and he got them signed to Columbia. Urubamba was originally an artist in the 60s called Los Incas, Peruvian artist, pan flutes, pantonic scales and percussion things, pan pipes, beautiful music from the Andes in a way. And of course, you all know from Bridge Over Troubled Waters, El Condor Pasa, that's a song that they originally did, and Simon & Garfunkel made it hugely famous with Urubamba playing on it. He gets them signed here. This is a beautiful record of that music, of that acoustic instrumental music. And I bought this when it came out in 1974, I guess, 73, 74, give or take. This is a beautiful record. Paul Simon produced it, shows the instruments that are played on it here. A lot of this kind of stuff you would hear, my exposure to this wasn't Paul Simon or Simon & Garfunkel. It was actually getting some of those None Such Explorer series. Those budget records on None Such were budget labels in a way. They were like $2.98 or $1.98 when everything else was $1 to $2 more pop records. But they were world music, sometimes field recordings, and great stuff. And there was a period of time I would pick those up. Unfortunately, when I purged my collection, a third of my collection, 95, I got rid of a lot of those Explorer series Nonsuch. I think you can find, I don't see them around a lot, surprisingly, but they're not particularly rare records, but it's a wonderful deep dive into world music and stuff that you may get on Smithsonian and Folkways, but those are more American-based for the most part, American-centric. This is from around the world, from various countries, and from Africa, from the Americas, all over. Various continents of music. The Non-Such Explorer series is something to definitely check out. But Urubamba, this wonderful, wonderful record from 1974, is like 51 years old now. An incredible record. Just a really soothing, wonderful record of world music. And Paul Simon, like he did with the African records in Graceland, he also used them on his song Duncan, the song from his first solo album as well. So Urubamba, 1974, Columbia Records. Next, an album this is the reissue. I thought I had the original, but I realized I had the CD, not the original record. This is Ingenue by Katie Lang. I first got into Katie Lang from her country records. A beautiful, kick-ass Canadian voice. Was it Something in Twang, that record I got? But the record that really got me into Katie Lang was more of a beautiful, soulful country record along the lines of Patsy Cline. And that was Shadowland. And that was a record produced by Owen Bradley in Nashville, who had his great recording studio with a Kwanzaa hut, I believe, for a while. It is an amazing record. She does a great, moody version of Western Skies, that great country song written by Chris Isaak on there. To me, that's one of the highlights on the album. Owen Bradley, of course, also produced the Patsy Cline records. So it's got that vibe, and it's such a great record. And obviously, she toured a lot and did the country and the kick-ass cowboy stuff, cowgirl stuff going along. I did see an amazing show of hers around in the 1990s at the Fillmore Auditorium. Packed, sold out. Amazing show. This was a game changer for her. This won Grammys. It was her biggest selling album and chart-topping album. And it's a very different album. It's more in the songbook style of the Peggy Lees and Julie Londons, yet it lifts up more than those records. It's an upbeat record. Even the moody stuff on here, like Save Me, it starts out with this some beautiful guitars. This record seems to flow together. It seems like one of those thematic records, you know, not unlike Sinatra's themed records, although it flows better in a way. I mean, not to diss Frank Sinatra, believe me, but it's a showpiece, but it's a beautiful showpiece. Now, it's interesting. This was recorded analog, but every version of this, including, this is a 2017 anniversary, the 25th anniversary record of this. And this was on None Such Records, this issue, and it has the proper album and a second disc of songs she did live for MTV Unplugged. And it's a great record. You can still get this for about $30 to $35 as a double album. It's available, it's easy, and it sounds awesome. Digital cut, and that's the way the original record was cut. I think it only came out in Europe originally on vinyl until this period, but every cut has been digital up till now. The label, which I don't have any of their records, Music Matters, not to be confused with Music Matters Jazz, they're doing these one-step series, and they did, I think they did Tool, they did Green Day, and they're doing this album, and it's pre-ordered. Now, I'm not ordering it. I read the review from Michael Fremer, says it's amazing because it's all analog. First time this has been cut all analog. I don't need a one-step, and I don't need a $100 record in a slipcase. Unfortunately, that's the only way you can get it, unless someone gifts it to me for my birthday in August or before. I'm not going to get it, but this is an amazing sounding record. So again, I don't have the all analog version, and I trust, obviously, Michael Fremer and his take on it, how it just never sounded as good. But it's a great recording to begin with. It's a great analog recording that was cut digitally to this, and it is wonderful. Again, this is one of those records that soars. There's a beauty, ethereal quality of this record, great vocal, just the instrumentation. It's soothing without being a middle of the road record. I mean, it's definitely got that kind of chill vibe. You put this on at a party, you put this, at a cocktail party, and not a dance party, but it's one of the best sounding records in my collection, digital or otherwise, But this is, again, the 25th anniversary on here. Constant Craving, I think, was the first big hit. And that record just floats. That album floats. Beautifully produced, co-produced, I think, by, it's by Katie Lang, Ben Mink, and Greg Penny. And this is a perfect record. And I'm great it's great that it is coming out for the audiophile market, but it's too bad it has to be in a slipcase and a $100 one-step. We don't need a one-step, we don't need a slipcase. And then if it's a $40 record, like a Rhino Hi-Fi, I guess they're not doing the non-such stuff, but it would be great that way from my point of view. But that's just my editorial opinion, and I have not heard it, and I probably won't be able to hear the other version, but that's okay, because this is killer. It's kind of like What You Don't Know. This is a great record. I don't need to get, that much more sounding on a record. It's the music, stupid, remember? Lastly, this is the coolest album, and this is one of the best band names and one of the best album names ever, I think, in my opinion. This is an album originally released in 1996. This is a band that started in 1990 in San Francisco, and I initially missed them. My son was born in the year they formed, so my son, Joseph, and the Brian Jonestown Massacre appeared at the same time. Now, I'm going to educate you on the name. Most of you probably know what that's about. First of all, Brian Jones, the Rolling Stone, who was into more experimenting than the other Stones. It seems like Mick and Keith wanted to keep doing blues and R&B, rock and roll the entire time. And Brian Jones was pushing the sitar, pushing the Moroccan music, pushing the psychedelic thing. Really, the guy that pushed them in 1967 to do Satanic Majesty's Request. Jonestown Massacre was unfortunately a real deal. Jonestown, the cult leader, cult leaders, I'm going to say this obviously, being a charismatic cult leader, I mean, you have to be a charismatic to be a cult leader. To get people blindly to follow you, in this case, the tragic thing of these people that literally drank the Kool-Aid and all died. In Guyana, is that the place it happened? And the assemblyman from California and his team came and they were shot at the airport. Horrible, horrible story of that. They ironically took over a temple that my family belonged to, Temple Beth Israel, on Geary Street in San Francisco at Fillmore, literally next door to the Fillmore Auditorium. And they took it over for years. And then it became Temple Beautiful. They had concerts again. And it ended up burning down. Someone was illegally living there and lit candles and it just caught fire and burned down. But that's kind of where the genesis of this horrible cult followed. And it's so horrible when people blindly follow someone so charismatic who's a religious prophet in his own mind, a reality star prophet and leader, and people blindly follow them. And whatever they do, they believe that is the final deal. And that's unfortunately what happened in Jonestown. But this brilliant name, the Brian Jonestown Massacre, merging the Rolling Stone guitar player and this horrible tragedy. I mean, it's kind of a black humor name for a band. And this is their fourth album, I believe. This came out again in 1996 out of San Francisco. Their Satanic Majesty's Second Request. Obviously, this is kind of their answer to that really interesting psychedelic one-off the Rolling Stones did at the end of '67. Influenced by Sgt. Pepper creatively, visually, maybe. This is a great record. This is a mix of psychedelic. It's literally an answer to that Stones album. It's got a shoegaze vibe to it. It's got sitar, it's got instrumentation, it's got some female vocals. But the opening track is a great vibe, all around you intro. Very much like, Let's Let the Show Begin, whatever the first track is on the Stones album. And it goes through this tour. And it's really good. This is over 2 records. This comes in and out of print, so grab it. I have about 5 of their albums that are very interesting. Tempestuous a little bit. There's a song on here called Donovan Said that brings up the song Fat Angel, that great Donovan psychedelic song that was covered by the Jefferson Airplane. The one that literally says, "Fly, Jefferson Airplane, get you there on time." There's a great, great feel to this record. And this is a record, even you boomers, that, this is 90, this has been around a while. This is like almost a 30-year-old record. So it's not a new record or band by any stretch. They're still playing around. I saw them once finally, but not like that first decade. I never saw them around this time, not when they were in San Francisco. Anton Newcomb is the main protagonist, the main songwriter, the leader of the band. Sometimes tempestuous times and crazy times at his shows, and a lot of intention in the band sometimes. He's one of those, in a way, he's like the cult leader of the Brian Jonestown Massacre, in a way. Crazy guy. I've heard, wild stories of his performances, his antics, things like that. But I think this is a really, really good record, and it's got a nice vibe to it too. It's a bit chill. It's a bit, it could be in that slow Britpop thing happening in the 1990s as well. In fact, when they open up, they sound like they're a British band. His vocals sound very British, like just on the verge. When the Brits, like the Stones or the Beatles, sing, they don't sing with a British accent, unlike Pink Floyd. but it's got that vibe, and it's really a delicious record. So there's Satanic Maji's second request. Brilliant, right? How cool is this? So that's pretty much it for today. It's the Music Stupid. Remember, before the tariffs raise the price on the t-shirts, get yours. And we'll see you next time. Massey loves you.